Hey crafty people, welcome back to my channel, and in case you're new here, I'm Sarah, also known as Craft Nerd because I'm a nerd who loves to craft. I do paper crafting, card making, junk journaling, and mixed media art. Let's get crafting! Welcome back. I am in the mood to make some bits and bobs for some Christmas and winter journals. So we're going to do some stamped bits and bobs, some labels, and so to start with, we're going to do some stamping. And with the labels, I'm going to show you a couple options for creating labels for your projects. But we're going to start with some straight up stamped bits and bobs. And I've got the new Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous stamp set Curator. It's CMS493, and this was part of the Halloween release this year. And I'm pretty sure like these pieces are all the same images that he uses for like his snippet packs. And that's one of those Tim Holtz things that I'm just like, I'd rather just stamp my own than spend money buying them. So now that he's come out with the stamp set, I'm really excited because I can make my own really easily. And for papers, what I did is I took some, so this is I use Hammermill 32-pound color copy paper for printing out like ephemera and bits I'm gonna fussy cut. And so I went ahead and dyed them with brushos. Crafty by Tony recently did a video where she was dyeing papers using brushos, and it reminded me, hey, I've got my brushos, I can use that to dye some paper. So I think this is emerald green. I think this is crimson, which I was going for a pink, and it's gotten more pink. Last night it looked a little bit more like mauvey. This was oyster red, which was supposed to be more red and came out a darker pink, but that's okay, I can always ink it later. This is violet, this is oyster blue, and this is turquoise. And if you're not familiar with brushos, they are a powder pigment that comes in a little container, and like this thing's like, it's huge. I've had this for at least a decade and I haven't made a dent in it. Granted, I don't use it as often as I should. Maybe I'll do a video playing with them in the not too distant future. But I put it in a little bit of water and then dunked my paper in and let it dry. So now I've got some colored papers, and I meant to grab some coffee dyed paper to do this with as well and forgot to. So we're just gonna start with our colored paper. And don't worry, we're not gonna stamp all of this on camera. I just went ahead and cut all of the papers in half because that will then fit in my MISTI, because I figured if I use my MISTI, what I can do is lay out the stamps in a pattern that will fit on a half sheet of paper, and I can just swap out the papers and kind of assembly line this. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all of our little bits and bobs and line them up on our piece of paper. I think I recently did this in the MISTI where I could manage to get most of it without pulling them all the way apart from each other. Don't think I can get quite all of the stamps that are on this stamp set on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, but I think I can get pretty darn close. I think I can get most of them. Wait, maybe I can squeeze everybody on? I can. Excellent. Everybody's squished on. I'm gonna close the door on my MISTI. Make sure everybody's picked up. And then I think first round, what I'm gonna do is stamp everything in black. And then for the second round, I'll do a color. And so I'm gonna use my VersaFine black because I want these to come out crisp and clean, and VersaFine's the best way to do that. And VersaFine's a pigment ink, which means it will be waterproof once it dries. So if I go back and like do anything wet to these, like splatter them with ink or anything like that, it's not gonna change the stamped image at all. We're gonna do this. There may be a few that, because these are thick and I've got my sticky grid pad in here, technically with the MISTI you're supposed to take out any pad and just have it sit on the bottom, but I like having the sticky grid to hold it in place. Although I think I've got, this might, all right, I think we're gonna try my scrapbook.com sticky mat, which is flat, and see if that will work in place of the waffle flower one, which has got sponginess. So bear with me, we're revising as we go. So there's what it looks like. I think I need to squish this guy down a little bit because he's going off the top there a little bit. Or you know what, let's turn him, since there's more space at the top than the bottom. That should work a little better. So let's see how this works. That should work. Oh, excellent. And so we're just, see, this way I can just ink, change out my paper, re-ink, stamp and go. Got a couple in the middle here that could use another stamp. Good enough. There's some wrinkles in the paper because it was dyed. All right, I'm gonna go through and stamp a sheet of everybody with the black ink, and then I will come back and we'll do some colored inks. And then we're gonna just flip it over. There are a few spots that could use another stamping. There. One of the ones over here. That's what I like about using my MISTI. And I know Tim Holtz, when he introduced the stamp set, pointed out you could just leave it on its packaging and stamp with it, which you could definitely do, especially if you don't have a stamp positioning tool. But it's really hard to do a restamp if you don't get everything as cleanly as you want. All right, so as with before, I'm gonna go ahead and stamp the rest of the pages in different colors, and then I'll be back. So there we go, lots and lots of stamped bits and bobs ready to be cut out. And you know, you can either cut them out close to the image or leave a little space around. For example, you can go like this. And leave a border. Or you can cut one out right up against the stamping. It's completely up to you. And I am going to probably fussy cut a bunch of these out, but I also may leave them on the sheets for easy storage. But there are stamped bits and bobs. And now I want to do some labels, and we've got some options for labels. So option one is stamping them. So I kept out my MISTI. I've put the waffle flower mat back in because these are clear stamps, so they're thinner, so they'll work just fine with the added padding of the sticky mat. And I'm gonna put my piece of paper in, and I think everything's lined up properly. I just wanna double check. Yep, that's all good, and there's still some space around. I'm debating pulling out some of the bits and bobs and just adding them in here, except they've got to be clear ones. Let me see if I've got some clear stamps that we can fill in around with. And these are Elizabeth Craft Designs. I think it's vintage labels. And then the rest of these are from Creative Expressions, Dates from the Past, I think 1 and 2. Let's see, that should go. This is from Creative Expressions, Butterfly Walk. And that's from Signatures from the Past 2 by Creative Expressions. And this one's Numbers from the Past by Creative Expressions. I think that's good. And again, I think for these, I'm gonna stamp them in color. Just using VersaFine Clear Monarch. It might be that it's slightly thinner, and so that's why that one needed a little extra pressure. So we've got those. And I am, as with the last, gonna go through and just stamp a bunch of these labels, and then later on we can stamp stuff onto the labels. So I'm gonna go through and do all of our colors again, and I'll be back. Okay, so I went ahead and stamped everybody in colors. I think occasionally I didn't quite get the stamps as clean as I should have. Like this one I had to redo because, yeah, they came out multicolored. Probably should have gone from light ink to dark. And for this one, instead of using VersaFine, I used the archival Kitsch Flamingo. And I have now pulled out my Sidekick because what I want to do is make some labels using the Tim Holtz Sizzix vintage label dies, which is 665929. And they're the ones you can ink and run through, and I think they'll all fit on the plates for the Sidekick. The large circle might be a bit of an issue, so I may skip doing that one. Need to get my paper and cut it down because I forgot I needed to cut it down. All right, let's grab our paper. And the plates are 2.5 wide, so we're gonna just cut down a piece to 2 1/4 so it will fit. Put it on my plate, do that, and then what you need to do is grab a scratched piece of paper because we are going to end up probably making a mess. Pick out which labels you want to die cut. So let's see what we can fit on this little piece. So we can do that guy there. Okay, so that will fit on one pass. So what we are going to do is we are going to take a brayer. Now, if you've never used these before, they're a little fiddly. I know Tim Holtz recommends using the archival ink. I find the archival ink pads a little on the dry side and I don't love them. I'm going to try the VersaFine Claire and see how that works. But what you need to do is brayer the ink on. And I'll be honest, I tried using just a generic brayer that I got off of Amazon, and the Tim Holtz brayer works much better. And just pay attention to make sure you get ink everywhere. And then, I just stuck my finger in that, trying to pick it up. I'm gonna flip it over. Hopefully I didn't mess that up too bad. And put it on my paper. And then I'm gonna take the next guy. Let's actually just sweep them all off because that'll be easier. put the top plate on and run this through. And I swear I don't know why it does not like me, but it is, my sidekick is very finicky. And then what you get is inked up labels. And I am liking the VersaFine Clair for this. I may have to get some more colors of VersaFine Clair just because of how well it works with these label dies. All right, I am gonna clean everything off and we'll do another run just so you can see like a different color. But that's basically what I'm gonna do to cut out a bunch of labels. Now, again, like I said, Tim Holtz recommends using the archival ink, and I've done that. I will admit I do find it a little bit fiddly, like it just dries so quickly. The Distress ink does not work very well because it's a dye-based ink, so it tends to bubble, to bead up on the metal of the dyes, and so you get a far messier look, like you don't get the full effect. I have used other pigment inks. I've used actually my VersaMagic multi-surface chalk inks, and those do a pretty good job, and those I apply straight on to the dyes. I don't even bother with a brayer for those, but I think I may have done that before I got the new brayer, which it actually makes a huge difference. I was a little surprised by that, but I figured what the heck, I'd give it a try. The Tim Holtz brayer definitely works better for applying ink to these guys than the cheap one I got off of Amazon, and it probably has to do with how soft or firm the brayer it is itself. So that is definitely something to keep in mind if you're thinking about getting these dyes. You will want to invest in the Tim Holtz brayer because it definitely works a lot better. So let's do one more round and let's do a different color. Let's do a set of green. And I tend to keep these in my stash just plain, so that I can stamp them when I need them. But you could definitely go ahead and stamp something, at least in some of these, like these guys. I probably have a stamp small enough to fit in, but it'd be a tight fit. So again, I will just lay these out, brayer on the ink. You just want to make sure your dyes don't overlap because that will damage the dyes. So there we go. Ooh, I like how those came out. Or that one. These, I definitely am liking using the Clair with these labels. Like, it is staying nice and juicy and working really well. There you go. I am going to clean up, probably do a whole bunch more so that I can build out my stash. And then I will come back and show you my last idea for making some bits and bobs for your journals. Here are all of our lovely die cut out labels. I didn't do all of the pieces I had. Like, I have some more of the purple to do and the lighter pink. I haven't done that. But there we go, a whole bunch of labels. And I've got one last bits and bobs thing I want to do, and these are digital labels by Vintage Studio 717. I'll leave a link down below, and she does some that are blank and some that have stuff printed on them, like, you know, season's greetings and things like that. But I want to do a few where I stamp my own on the blank ones, so that's what we're gonna do now. Let me grab the stamps, and yeah, I did not do a very good job of cutting these guys apart with my paper trimmer, so I left a little bit on there, but it'll be fine. All right, so I've pulled out, that stamp is from Woodlands CMS476. And then the other one is from Jolly Holiday CMS474. And then I've got December 25th, which I'm hoping will fit on one of these smaller ones. Yes, and that's from Tiny Text Christmas CMS424. Let's do Merry and Bright. And that's a 25, and it's from Creative Expressions Numbers from the Past. Merry Mail, which is from Darkroom Door. Merry Mail, which is DDRS 208. I'm trying to think if I want to grab another one of these. That's a Christmas tree. Maybe the holly berries. And I'm grabbing the Tidbits CMS488, and I'm gonna just grab a few numbery bits off of this. Ooh, let's do, this is Tim Holtz set. It's one of the clear sets that came with a stencil. And I grabbed a couple more stamps from Eccentric CMS448. I think we're just gonna do those for now. I may decide to do more later, and I'm gonna use the VersaFine Claire. So I'm just gonna ink up the stamp. And so I was a little aggressive and got some on the stamp, and to ensure I don't make a mess, I'm just gonna take a cloth and wipe the excess ink off. There we go, we got that guy. And you know what, I think I may do a couple of those. The admit one, and that one I think I'm going to do in red. Still got some on there. And actually, let's see, I think it will actually fit on the smaller labels too. There we go. All right, so this one's department 253. I think I'm gonna avoid inking the 3. And I'm gonna just put a Post-it note on to cover it up when I ink it. So just put a Post-it note over the 3. I'm gonna ink the stamp, take the Post-it note off. Remember to do that. And stamp department 25. Ooh, I really like that. All right, I'm gonna do one more with that. This 25 in red, and I'm stamping it on another page just because I've not used this one before and I wanted to make sure it's going to stamp good. All right, let's pull over our other sheet and do some stamping on there. I'm actually going to trim some more of the rubber off of this guy, just because it makes it easier to know where the image is when I'm stamping, and there's less excess rubber to get inked by accident. Ah, that was very messy. I should have looked at that before I did that. Oh well, too late now. I can always make sure when I use it, I cover up the inky bits that I did not like. I think I may pull over and do a few on the stamped labels. All right, these. Let's do the blue, the red, and the green. Yeah, maybe the purples too. Oh, let's see. Will Dashing Through the Snow fit on somebody? He will fit there. That's perfect. Let's see. Oh, and Baby It's Cold Outside will fit there. So let's do that. And I think I'm only going to do a couple more just because I want to have the option of later on, because sometimes I need a blank label. Let's use the 25. Maybe Merry Mail? Yes, I think that's going to go there. All right, let's do that. And I'm going to use the blue. Yeah, this one, my stamp was a little wet when I stamped it, so it got a little messy. Okay, I think you get the idea. I am probably going to go ahead and stamp a few more of the stampy labels and leave a few blank and cut those out, and then I'll be back and we'll take a look at what we've done. Okay, so there are all of our bits and bobs. So we've got our stamped bits and bobs that, again, I think I'm just going to leave them on the sheets because they're kind of small. And the way I like to store my bits and bobs is in like postage stamp storage books like this. And these guys are a little on the small side to fit in that. So I think I'm going to leave them on the sheets and cut them as needed. I haven't cut all of the labels out yet that I stamped, but I've got those, and then here are the ones, our stamped labels, that some of them we stamped on and some we left blank for now. And I will probably just stamp something on them if I want when I go to use them, or use them plain, because sometimes you just want a plain label. Then we've got our die cut labels, which I don't remember if I mentioned. I did do a set of the green on just plain coffee dyed paper instead of the color dyed. Oh, and red. So that's an option too. And then we've got our digitals that I went and stamped on. So we've got digital and stamped labels. So there are all of our bits and bobs, and that's all for today. So if you enjoyed this video, please do all the things that lets YouTube know you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave me a comment down below. Thanks for joining me, and happy crafting!